But today I want to talk about the ether, and I want to offer you 4 simple proofs of the ether. And these are very, very simple proofs. We can all understand them. Hi there, my name is Toby, and on this channel I talk about internal body dynamics. I talk about the chi energy or the ether, the science of the ether as well. I talk about Tesla's physics as well as Taoist philosophy, and I also talk about the state of the world and how we might build a better world, because I am working on a very exciting blockchain project that could do just that. It's a better world project, so links below. But today I want to talk about the ether, and I want to offer you 4 simple proofs of the ether. And these are very, very simple proofs. We can all understand them. They don't even need an experiment. You can understand these proofs in your head. So bear with me and I'll take you through them. But let me just describe the ether. It's very important. We don't understand what this is. The ether is simply a pure fluid field. The universe is made up of pure fluid. It's a very different concept. We're not used to it. See, quantum mechanics has led us to believe the universe is made up of particles. Lots of little particles all bumping together. But even they are saying that, well, there is energy, matter and energy are the same thing. So they're still acknowledging energy is really the underlying field, and energy is pure fluid. So the underlying field is the ether. It has to be. And quantum mechanics, they just don't like that word because the ether has been rejected as nonsense, actively rejected. So it should never have been rejected, but it has been. And so they don't like to use it. They're sort of in denial. But they talk about a lot of things that really are the ether. They talk about dark matter, dark energy, quantum flux, quantum liquid, 0-point field. All this stuff are just euphemisms for the ether in a roundabout way. But they really should just get on and look at the ether. It's a far simpler, more universal science, and it will explain all of the phenomena in the universe simply, easily and immediately, and there will be no paradoxes. Quantum mechanics is filled with paradoxes and contradictions, and you cannot have a true science with that. Mother Nature would not have a paradox. It must follow Occam's razor. Divinity is simplicity. It has to be. It has to be. We've made this so complicated and convoluted, and we think we're so clever, but we really are not. And we now talk about alien technology. We all say that. So if quantum mechanics understood what they think they understand, they should understand alien technology, but they don't. And the reason they don't understand alien technology is because alien technology is ether technology. The aliens are talking about ether. They know ether science because that is the real science of the universe. Quantum mechanics is not quite correct. We've gone off at a tangent. We've been purposely misled, and we've been misled into mathematics. It's like a self-indulgent exploration of mathematics for its own sake. Very complex, elaborate mathematics with no real connection to reality. And Tesla was very much against quantum mechanics and relativity, and that's exactly what he said. These guys are moving to the edge of madness. They can think very deeply, but not very clearly. This is what Tesla said. So let's talk about the ether. Let me go through these 4 simple proofs of the ether so that you can wrap your head around it. So the first one is a magnet. I've got a magnet here. So you think, well, I've got another small magnet here. Oh, so you see that one's got a force going in. And if I take to this side, I've got a force going out. This is a real energy, a real field of energy coming out of this square. What on earth is it? What is it? Well, this has to be pure fluid. It's got to be a pure fluid because this is like pressure. This is a pressure being pushed away, and this is a low pressure being pulled in. You can feel it. It behaves exactly like that. Pure fluid fields are pressure. It's a pressure mediation. So quantum mechanics will look at this, and when no one would deny there's a field in the middle of this magnet is the center of the field. It comes out and goes in. They're field lines. But what is in the middle? What is in the middle of this? In the middle of this magnet is called the point of inertia, the center of the field. And in that point, there is no magnetism. There is no field right there. We know that. We can look at this. There are ways we can look at the field. So how do we explain that? What is happening here? Because from that tiny little infinitesimal point, there is no field, and yet this field is coming out. And if I split this magnet in half, I'll have two magnets, but both of these will have the same point in the middle. It always goes back to the middle. Even if I went right down to a single atom, that will have a magnetic field, and in the middle of that will have the same point of inertia. It will be emanating from a single atom. So what is in that point of inertia? There is no field there. There is no magnetism there. And I would say there is, and again, this is ether physics, there is no time there and there is no space there. That is the point where ether is emerging. The universe, the energy is emerging from the ether, from that point into the field, and is converging, it's returning back to it. So the field of the electromagnetic field is appearing and disappearing from that point of inertia. So this is the crossover point. The ether is metaphysical, unmanifest energy, pure potentiality. So that pure potentiality from that non-physical, because it's an infinitesimal point, then the field is manifest and appears. So the first proof of the ether is the magnetic field itself. When you look at the magnet, you have to explain what on earth is going on. No one can deny there's a point in the middle where something is happening. But that point is infinitesimal. It's moving towards metaphysics. So if you go slightly away from the point, now you've got some field. It's right in the middle, the perfect balance point between the so-called north and south pole. It disappears. It's disappearing down infinitesimally into something. Into what? Now, in field theory, in ether physics, we call this counter space. There's another very serious engineer called Eric Dollard, and he calls this counter space. So counter space, where space is disappearing again. Counter space. And from that point, space is appearing. The field appears, and space is the wake, the shadow of that field appearing. But then space disappears as the field goes in again, the shadow goes in again. It's counter space. So that is field theory. Okay, it's a thought experiment proof. So let's try another one. Let's try another one if that one didn't convince you. Let's look at something more visible that we can all see. Let's look at lightning. Lightning. So we all know what lightning is. Lightning is created in the clouds. It shoots down and it hits the earth. So we all know that. But where does it go? Where does the lightning go? Okay, well, before we do that, where does it come from? Okay, where did it come from is a longer question because, it builds up in the clouds. So static electricity builds up in the clouds and then it gets so much, it has to be released. Yeah, okay, it's released, but where does it go? Well, it goes to the earth. Why the earth? Because there's a bigger charge here, neutral charge, it can go there. Well, actually, it doesn't go to the earth. It doesn't go to the earth. But before I come to that, okay, the static electricity builds up in the cloud, but where does the static electricity come from to build up in the cloud? It's still a deeper question. Well, it's in the atoms rubbing together or something. Yeah, but where does it come from in the atoms? What is it? What is a charge? Again, that question has not been answered. Field theory will explain that. Ether explains that. But again, let's take the simpler question, is where does it go? So we think it goes to the earth. But actually it doesn't. It goes to, look at it, it goes out as well, doesn't it? You get lightning goes off. It goes in a dendritic pattern. It goes off to different points. And in fact, you can see this as well. Sometimes it doesn't even hit the earth, but another lightning comes up from the earth and meets it. So one will come up and one will come down. So it's going to different points in space. And what are these points? These are points of inertia, points of counter space. The electric charge is disappearing back into inertia, back into the ether, back into counter space. This infinitesimal point that is in the center of the field of this magnet. That's what's happening. Now you have to ask a quantum physicist how they would explain this. You can't explain it. You see, the ether field theory has the concept of space and counter space built into it. It's ever so simple. These are points disappearing. They're going out of space. They're going back into metaphysics. That's why we don't like it in modern science. We don't like metaphysics. This is going outside space. It's disappearing. You see, okay, we can see this point, but as you go closer and closer and closer, you can't register it anymore. And it becomes infinitesimal. Now, it means it's going outside Cartesian coordinates. It's non-Cartesian, is the way of saying it. Cartesian coordinates are x, y, z. That is how you can measure a position in space. That's how we know it exists. So we can measure an area, but as you get closer and closer, it becomes infinitesimal, it's disappearing. It's the same as saying infinity. When you go to infinity, you can't register that really in space anymore. It's gone off. So this point is becoming infinitesimal. The energy is disappearing into it. It's a sinkhole. It's a point of low pressure. Here we've got a point of high pressure going down to a point of low pressure. And sometimes there's a point here of low pressure so that the lightning comes from here and it's lower pressure than the Earth. So the Earth also gets sucked up and disappears into this point. See, this is how the field works. Pressure builds up and pressure releases. And everything, every phenomena in the universe can be explained by this system. So lightning is another proof of the ether because it's the way you explain it. It's the way you explain it. So again, if that one hasn't quite convinced you, let's do another one. Let's do another one. So ether, let's talk about light. Okay, quantum physics will say light is a particle or a wave and it travels along. So an atom will release a photon and the photon goes along, it travels. But ether physics doesn't say that. Remember, ether is a pure fluid field. There is one united field. That's it. The universe is only made of this one field. And this one field is metaphysical. You see, it comes from inertia, this tiny point of inertia. It's outside space. But how does it come into space? Well, there's a disturbance, a vibration. Disturbance happens in the ether. This is a frequency. This is information. It has to be a disturbance. See, this is a wave. This is a disturbance, but you can have a varying wave. The disturbance varies. This is information. But information is metaphysical. Information is not physical. This is how information becomes physical through a frequency, a wave. And this we could call electromagnetism. But electromagnetism is the manifestation of the ether. It is the way we can describe a disturbance in the ether. Quantum mechanics says there's something flying along, and then this particle, imagine you've got a photon, it travels at speed c, the speed of light. Now, so it goes along. Now, if it hits another medium, like here, a block of ice or a block of glass, the speed of light will slow down. It will go down, it will be less than c, because it's changed medium. Here it's just in empty space, a vacuum. And there it slows down. Let's do it a bit better. It slows down like that. But when it comes out again, it goes back to c. It speeds up again. See, if a particle was traveling along with some energy, it hit another medium and it slows down, it's lost some energy. Then when it comes out, well, it has to continue at that slow energy. It cannot get any more energy to speed up again. So this is why you cannot say light is a particle, but it also means you cannot say it's anything traveling. There's nothing is traveling, because otherwise you've got to say, why does it speed up? It speeds up because this is just a disturbance in the medium. You see, what happens here, some energy is disturbed, a point of inertia is activated. This creates a wave emanating out like a ripple in a pond. But the water is not traveling anywhere. You see, if you're standing at the edge of the pond, you throw up a stone in, the wave will hit you, but the water's still in the pond. The water hasn't come towards you. The water's just gone up and down a bit, but it stayed in the same place. A disturbance has hit you. So that's what's happened here. An atom has emitted some light, and a disturbance happens. This disturbance travels along through the medium of the ether, which is C, so that that is the resistance of the ether against itself, the hysteresis of the ether. So that is the wave's own resistance against itself. I'll have to talk about that a bit more. But when it changes medium, it slows down, so now we get slower waves. But when it goes back to another medium, it can speed up again, because nothing is traveling, just a disturbance. And the disturbance travels through the medium according to the medium, what it is. So when it goes back to empty space, it speeds up again. So light is nothing more than a disturbance in the field, a disturbance in the ether. Remember, you feel it. The Jedi know this. There's a disturbance in the Force. That's exactly right. That's how we do it. That's how we do chi. I'm creating a disturbance in the Force. And the other person is feeling the disturbance in the Force. It's not so much I'm throwing chi at you, I'm throwing a disturbance. I'm creating a disturbance like a sound wave, like a shock wave. And the disturbance moves through the field. It's the same in the thought world. The thought's the same thing. I'm thinking, this telepathy is a transfer of a disturbance in the ether, the metaphysical ether, not yet manifest, not yet electromagnetism. So there is more to this. So the fact that light speeds up again after it goes through another medium is another proof of the ether, because that's it. Quantum mechanics can't explain that. And then let's do the fourth one. Okay, if that still hasn't convinced you, let's look at something very practical. Magnetic induction in a vacuum. Again, quantum physics can't explain this. What is magnetic induction? We all know these induction heaters. You've got these induction cookers. What it is a coil of wire. And if you run a current through the coil of wire, of course, it makes a magnetic field. But now, magnetic induction, well, let's look at Tesla's wireless power transfer, because everyone knows about this now. Tesla discovered wireless power transfer. And it works like this. You have to have another coil. So if you have another coil, identical, it must have the same number of turns, be the same size, etc., etc. And this one here is just, okay, this one has got a light bulb. So this one's got a light bulb here. This one, you put a battery. Oops, plus minus. So now, if you put a battery on this one, a current goes through this one is a distance away. But what will happen is a current will appear in here, and this will go up, this will light up. How does this happen? Quantum physics can't explain this. There's no connection between these two things. It will happen instantly. Because it will happen in a vacuum. There doesn't have to be any medium in here. But if you have another coil, if you change the size of this coil, maybe put another one in it, it won't work. It's got to match these two. These two have got to have a geometry connection. They are connected through geometry. They must have a proportionality to the coils, or the size of the coils. It doesn't have to be exact. It could be small, but it will have to be a proportionality that these work. And this creates what is called resonance. Resonance. And again, quantum mechanics can't explain resonance. Resonance requires metaphysics. It requires the ether. Because what connects these two coils? It is the geometry. It is the number, the numerology that connects them. Geometry and numerology is metaphysics, not physical. The metaphysics of these two things connects them. That allows the wireless power transfer. In other words, these two things are connected to the ether, and by stimulating this connection, this one is actually what's happening. This one is creating a disturbance in the ether. This one is picking up the disturbance of the ether and translating it back into electromagnetism. Here's one creates a disturbance of the ether. Now, it's a bit like radio waves. It's not the same as radio waves. This is pure resonance. Radio waves is something different. So this is pure metaphysical connection. Radio waves, let's just tell you out of interest, if you have a radio station here broadcasting. Now, Tesla said, let's just say it, Tesla said that light can be nothing more than a sound wave in the ether. And he also said a radio station is basically an ether whistle. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. A whistle, you know. Doo-doo. So when you blow a whistle, what's happening? You're creating a disturbance in the air, a high-pitched disturbance, and that's flying out. So that's what a radio wave is, a high-pitched disturbance in the ether, and that's flying out. So it's broadcasting this radio signal through the ether, creating a disturbance, and other radio stations can pick it up by tuning. They've got to tune into it. In other words, they've got to find the resonance of this and pick it up. and then that translates back to another wave, another signal, and then you can hear it on the radio. So this again is creating a disturbance in the ether, and then you're picking up that disturbance. So it's very interesting, very, very interesting. And Tesla's got a lot more to say about this. He created things, what he invented, called impulse electricity. And again, it's to do with changing the voltage fast. You create a frequency change in voltage. Very interesting things happen. But all of these are simply methods of disturbing the ether, using frequency vibrations to create disturbances and create different effects. And then you need geometry. See, this magnet has got power because of geometry. The atoms are aligned in a particular way. They're all lined up. When the geometry is right, it triggers the creation of the field. It creates this point of inertia. You see, and it creates coherence. It all links together to the point, and then that stimulates the ether to manifest into electromagnetism. It creates this permanent disturbance in the ether. This is already a free energy machine. Energy is coming out of here permanently. So I hope this made sense. I really hope so. I really hope so. I'm trying to improve my explanations of this, so please do bear with me. This is, of course, all my humble own ideas, my own understanding of this, but I personally am utterly convinced that the ether science is the way. And we need a lot more serious thinking scientists to look at it. But it's philosophy as well. You need metaphysics. That's why I do it together with body efficiency training. This is also an experiential science. You experience this stuff. It's not just intellectual. Very big difference. Very, very big difference. This is true holistic science. And this is the way we can improve ourselves, our connection to the universe, and ultimately build ourselves a better world. That's what it's all about. So I also hope you'll have a look at my series on energy healing. That's the way I'm practically using the ether to do some good, and we can do this as living beings for each other. So thank you so much for listening to this talk. Do check out my homepage and look through my playlists. I talk about this stuff in many, many different ways, and I've tried to organize it into subjects so you can see what might interest you. So thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in any of these other videos here.